My name is Tony and I'm a bit of an adventurer. I love to get my hands dirty and I've been riding motorbikes since I was 2 years old. I run this YouTube channel as a little bit of a hobby dedicated to my love of motorbikes. Then there's my mate Lisa, a self-made restaurateur living the high life in Dubai. We've been mates for over 25 years and together we decided to take on one of the world's most unforgiving adventures, the Monkey Run Mongolia. So if you're thinking about doing this yourself, then this guide will include the top things that I wish I'd known before we set off. What to bring, what to expect, the mistakes to avoid, and the little things that can help make a huge difference when you're thousands of miles from home. Now for luggage, I went with motorcycle specific bags from Temu. It might sound like an odd choice, I do have the Krieger sets, but I didn't want to wreck them on a trip like this. These did an absolutely fantastic job. They are modular, they have a waterproof inner, and they're extremely cost effective. I ran the 30 litre roll top bag with a 10 litre that's strapped on top. I also had my 25 litre Krieger rucksack with 2 front pouches by Krieger as well. Plus I ran a bum bag which held my phone, wallet and charger, and I was able to charge stuff on the go. Now whatever you carry, bear in mind the weight is going to affect the handling and the speed of the bike, especially because it is only just a 50cc. But at the same time you do need enough kit to actually get you through a trip like this, so it is a bit of a balancing act. The trick is to pack as light as you can, but do not start cutting things that you're actually going to need out there. I'll go through a more detailed list as we go on. The main thing is, whatever bags you end up with, make sure they're secure, they're compact and they're waterproof, because things will come loose over the terrain out there and you're never guaranteed just sunshine. It could potentially rain, and quite heavily. Getting it attached to the bike is also its own challenge. Webbing, bungees and straps come in really handy, so take a big supply of these. You're going to need to build some form of a racking system on the back because the rack on the bike is extremely small. What seemed to work really well were skateboards. They were honestly the most durable and tough racking systems that I saw, and not a single skateboard broke on the trip. My toolkit comprised of 2 main parts. I had a socket set with a load of interchangeable bits like Torx, hex and screwdriver bits, as well as a selection of sockets. And then I had a separate tool roll with all the other loose tools. That included spanners from 8 to 17mm, an adjustable wrench, monkey wrench, pliers, a knife, duct tape and electrical tape, plus spares like a clutch cable, spark plugs and spark plug sockets, as well as a spare inner tube and an inline fuel filter. You're going to want to take a proper assortment of zip ties, and I mean ones that go from absolutely tiny ones. They came in more than handy and more than I expected they would. Things like WD-40 and carb cleaner you can pick up on the go. Now I started out with a full set of tyre levers, but I gave them away because they were just extra weight. As it turned out, lots of people on the trip had punctures, but these bike run split rims, so the rim itself comes apart in 2 halves. I'd say as long as you can break that bead, keep 1 lever, that's all you're going to need. 2 things I'd definitely add to my kit would be a small magnet for any screws or metal objects that dropped in the sand if I'm doing a repair, and a spare pair of chain adjusters would also come in handy, as I noticed a lot of those had either been stripped or were just a little bit worn. We borrowed a 2-man and a 1-man tent, which were both lightweight hiking grade. Mine wasn't waterproof, which I found out the hard way, and Lisa's 1-man tent she couldn't sit up in once she was inside. It's got to be light and compact enough to strap to the bike. Lisa's was tiny and packed down brilliantly. Mine was a little bit bigger but still lightweight, so it is a balancing act between size, weight and being livable. If I did it again, I'd go for a medium quality 2-man tent rather than going for an extreme lightweight version, just so you get a little bit more room. And I'll double check that it's waterproof before I left. Take a decent sleeping mat and sleeping bag, as the temperature can swing massively out there. You're going to want an LED head torch, and if you can get one with a red light setting, it's handy as it attracts fewer bugs. For cooking, we bought a cheaper version of a jet boil off Amazon, and the gas you can get easily from most of the big department stores in the city. When it came to electronics, I took a 2-pin plug adapter with 5 USB ports, since most of my stuff is charged with USB. I also carried 2 battery banks and 4 USB-C cables to keep my phone, my action cam and my 360 camera and my battery banks topped up. On the bike itself, I wired a USB and a USB-C hub straight from the battery onto the handlebars. This enabled me to run a cable out of my bum bag directly up to the bars to keep anything charged on the move. Water is one of the big things that you need to get right, especially in the Gobi Desert. Between the lack of people that you come across and the extreme heat, if anything goes wrong, water is what's going to get you through it. So any extra space that you may have on the bike, fill it with water first. It eases off a little bit once you get into the steppe region, since you are around more people and the temperatures are less extreme, but water is heavy, so it is a balancing act. Generally, I carried 3 litres in a hydration bladder plus 2 1.5 litre bottles on the back of the bike. If I had the space, I also carried a 5 litre collapsible bag that folded down once it was empty. You're also going to want to make sure that you take some rehydration salts too, because you sweat constantly out there, but keep them separate from your main water supply in case you need that water for a wound or for cooking or making a cuppa. I took some purification tablets and a life straw as a backup, but generally the Gobi Desert in July is bone dry. We were out there for 5 days and I didn't see any water, so don't plan on finding any out there. In terms of water, you're going to want to carry enough to cover the distance between towns with a little bit extra on top, and also take your filtration as a backup but not as your major plan.
Hell, I come 40,000 miles over here to see what them pretty little lips gonna do to me, baby.
Mongolia can throw everything at you. The Gobi Desert hit the mid to high 30s with absolutely no shade, and then the further north we hit torrential rain and temperatures quickly went into single digits, so you're going to want lightweight, quick drying layers. Up top I wore a long sleeve, quick drying motocross jersey, and on the hotter days I swapped it out for a short sleeve gym top, plus my Let Us Live lycra neck buff. On the bottom I wore my Kevlar motorcycle jeans, which were way too hot in the Gobi Desert, but they were fine once we hit the steppe. I also had a pair of motocross trousers which were much cooler, but they're definitely less protective. You'll want waterproof over trousers and a waterproof jacket of some kind. I used a hiking jacket. Armour wise, I'd go more for impact protection on elbows and knees rather than the heavy slide gear. You're not getting up enough speed on these bikes to slide very far, but impacts are a risk. A lightweight hiking jacket over the top did the job for me. When I landed at the airport, the cash machine was completely dry. I couldn't get any local currency out at all, not even at the currency exchange, as they didn't accept UK currency. Luckily, I'd already set up an app called Tino before I'd left home. That allowed me to use my bank card against the app and to book a cab directly from the airport. When it comes to cash, I would say around £200 is plenty. I used my Monzo Visa card everywhere I went, and I actually ended up finding it difficult to spend the physical cash itself. Make sure your card is fit for travel before you leave. I know that Lisa had a lot more problems using her card, yet the boys and myself all had Monzo and we all were able to use our card freely. When it came to phones, myself and Matt opted for a physical Mongolian SIM. Lisa and Ben both ran eSIMs. Between all of us, we pretty much had full coverage across both the Gobi and the steppe, and only a handful of times we experienced dropout in signal. Alongside that, we carried a Garmin InReach Mini 2 as a satellite phone, mainly for absolute emergencies, but we also used it as a daily check-in with friends and family back home. When it comes to navigation, Mongolia will certainly put your skills to the test. Google Maps will often tell you that there's no route because there isn't an official road, just tracks that other people have made across the desert over time. We relied on a mix of Maps.me, offline Google Maps and KML files marking fuel stops, hotels and points of interest. I'd also check satellite views before setting off each day. I'd be asking, is the ground flat? Maybe is it soft and has it rained recently? Because flat ground can quickly turn into a bog and that can add hours onto your day. I carried a physical map as backup and I was glad I did. My phone died in the heat more than once and the quad lock case warped in the sun. The touchscreen packed in completely after it got wet on the step, so don't rely on your phone as your only option out there. Definitely bring a physical compass and a physical map. There is nothing quite as terrifying as being faced with the sheer expanse of nothingness in the brutal heat of the Gobi Desert. And being able to confidently take and read a bearing in an environment like that, it's a different kettle of fish entirely. I don't know if the camera will pick this up, but just out there it looks like water or that the ground is flaming, but it's actually the heat. And it is only 9:48 a.m. There she goes. You've got to know when to take your ego out of the equation out here. At one point, the boys had set off for the next town, which was about 70 kilometres away, but they came back a full day later completely depleted as the route was impassable. At the pace we were going, with Lisa being a complete beginner, it would have taken us about a month to reach Yeru Lodge. So we made the call as a group to get us out of the desert and onto the steppe. So we ended up paying for a truck driver to take us and the bikes to a town called Lun, which is just west of Ulaanbaatar. Now, it's not about grinding out every mile on principle, because you're only as strong as your weakest person. And whether that means riding every kilometre yourself or jumping on the back of a truck to hoik your ass out the desert, it's all part of the adventure. Now, there are main roads that you can jump on and off of to help make up a bit of ground. And personally, I would avoid riding in Ulaanbaatar itself, as the traffic is completely chaotic. But out here on the smaller towns and the desert and the steppe, it's much more manageable. Just keep clear of the big lorries, and if it gets a bit busy, jump off and let them pass. If you're travelling in July, then you'll run into the Nadam festival, which will find small versions popping up in towns everywhere all over the country. It's their national holiday, so small towns can sometimes feel like ghost towns, whilst the bigger ones get fully booked. Some towns don't even have accommodation listed at all, but speak to the locals and they'll usually help you out. That's what happened to us in a couple of the towns. In one we arrived at pretty late, we got lucky finding a hostel. Bear in mind, if there's genuinely nothing there, you'll need to camp, so don't leave it too late in the day to arrive somewhere. You'll want a buffer to actually pitch your tent and cook some food if you need to. Lisa put together a brilliant medical kit, and the things we used the most were ibuprofen, antihistamines and those rehydration salts. Rabies exists in Mongolia, so it is worth looking into that pre-exposure vaccine and make sure that your tetanus is up to date before you go. That was two things I didn't do, and I absolutely shat myself every time a dog come running out of a gur. Now, you will find that dogs are attached to the gurs and they will come out and they will chase, so there is a chance that you might get bit. Mosquitoes weren't really a problem until we arrived at Yeru Lodge, right by the river, and then we got absolutely eaten alive. So pack repellent for that last part of the trip. One of the best parts of the trip are the people that you'll meet along the way. Now, not everyone teams up, plenty of people do the whole thing solo, but some people end up working together too. Now, we joined forces with brothers Matt and Ben, and between us we halved our troubles and doubled our strengths. They were brilliant with the navigation, I handled the tools and mechanics, and Lisa's medical kit covered the rest. Everyone brought something to the table. It surprised me how many people on the trip were actually complete beginners on bikes with zero mechanical experience. Now, they do run a mechanic session before you set off, which is useful but still fairly basic. Knowing the fundamentals is worth having, but if you are a genuine beginner and something goes wrong that's beyond you, then trying to force fix it can actually do more harm than good. This is where teaming up can matter. Joining forces, sharing skills is what's going to get you through. And then there's the Mongolian people themselves. I was blown away, genuinely some of the most helpful, hospitable people I've ever met, and the stories you will come away with will change how you see humanity for the better. The environment out there can be brutal and unforgiving, but the warmth and generosity of the people more than make up for it tenfold. That's everything I could squeeze in, but knowing me, I've probably forgotten a few bits, a tyre inflator being one of the things that springs to mind. Now, this list isn't exhaustive, and I'm not going to go back and edit that bit in because this video is long enough already. But if you've done the Monkey Run Mongolia, or you've got some tips of your own, stick them in the comments and share them with anyone else watching this who might be thinking about giving it a go. Until next time, safe riding, safe driving, happy adventures, and I'll see you in the next one.
Well, you might think you're driving me insane, but I made the game that you're trying to play. You know, I think you maybe ought to know this ain't my first